Hello and welcome. I am Dr. Murphy and I am the founder of Pluto Sophia. Today is Tuesday, September 17th, 2024. And in this video, we're going to be taking a closer look at the story of the demon Azazel. So Azazel is a demon who is associated with forbidden knowledge and forbidden arts. His teachings are very practical, and he teaches how to manifest power through manipulation of the earth. He rebelled against the divine order of the celestial realm, and he is actually one of the angels who led a rebellion against the celestial order. And there was this civil war that happened in heaven, and some of the angels chose one side. They chose to stay on the side of the divine order, and other angels, known as the fallen angels or the watchers, chose the other side, and they followed Azazel in their rebellion against this divine order. So these fallen angels or watchers descended to earth, led by Azazel, and they shared divine knowledge with humans. And the reason Azazel, we say he is connected with forbidden knowledge and forbidden arts, is because this knowledge was considered forbidden within the divine order, because it needed to be kept hidden from humans. So the idea was that, essentially humans should not have this knowledge, and the reasons given were that it was dangerous and it was corrupting. However, some of the angels in heaven did not agree with this, and so there was kind of this schism within the heavens, and a lot of the angels left and they came to earth, and they were sharing this knowledge with humans. Right, so this was like secret occult knowledge. And when Azazel and the other fallen angels were sharing this knowledge, it gave humans power. And what this allowed was for the first time, for humans to break their chains of slavery and pursue their own free will. And the divine order did not like this, of course, because the way the divine order is set up is that humans should remain ignorant and submissive and worship the Abrahamic God, which is external to themselves, which means through all of their ritual and prayer, they are taking their energy and sending it outside of themselves to this Abrahamic God. But when humans had this knowledge, right, it's like when Azazel led the watchers out of heaven in this rebellion, this is what created the left-hand path. And now humans have this knowledge, and they can choose to walk the left-hand path, and so they're taking that pentagram and they're inverting it so that the top point of the star, representing spirit, is pointing downward, which means humans are taking back their energy, they're taking back their power, they're reclaiming their power. And having this knowledge allowed humans to transcend natural law. It allowed them to be liberated. It allowed them to attain states of sovereignty and illumination. And ultimately, for those who pursue the left-hand path all the way to the end, through magic, through alchemy, what have you, they can become just like the gods. So now, armed with this forbidden knowledge, humans have the ability to attain that state of self-deification or apotheosis. Now, Azazel's teachings are very practical, and this is what sets him apart from other, what we would call the fallen angels, or who later became known as demons, right? Because they're all sharing kind of forbidden occult knowledge with humans in various different ways. Some of it is more alchemical, some of it is more magical, some of it is more spiritual or mental. But Azazel, when he descended to earth during this rebellion, he was coming to get his hands dirty and getting the hands of the humans dirty and teaching them very practical things. So he was teaching them how to take the earth and transform it through like alchemy to make new and better things. So he was teaching them firstly mining, how to extract metals and things from the earth, and then he was teaching them how to take those and through blacksmithing and metallurgy, how to forge tools and weapons and jewelry. So Azazel also taught about cosmetics and also sorcery, magic, black magic, alchemy. So Azazel is a very interesting demon, and he has a lot to teach us as humans, and it's very practical knowledge. So Azazel has this connection to the earth and the element earth, which makes him very practical. So Azazel is an ally of humanity, as I would say all of these rebellious angels, these watchers, fallen angels, these demons, I view them as being allies of humanity. And they sacrificed a lot, because you have to understand they had it made being these angels within heaven, having very high ranks within the divine order, the celestial realm. And they gave that up to help humans. They gave that up to help us. So I view these demons as being allies of humanity, and I think they all kind of embody that Promethean archetype. And Azazel certainly does embody that Promethean archetype as well. So Prometheus was the god that was punished eternally. Punished eternally. What was his big crime? Well, he shared the fire of the gods with humans. And seen as allegory, this fire represents knowledge, escape from ignorance. It's sharing of power. Knowledge is power. Fire is power. Fire is also illumination. So when you share that fire, you're sharing potential and the full potential with humans. So being a human myself, I would say, yeah, I like Prometheus and I like Azazel. They seem to be on our side. So Azazel is certainly, he's a powerful guide for magicians upon the left-hand path. He's a friend of the black magician. He teaches practical skills for the earthly plane, for the physical realm. And he's sharing that secret forbidden knowledge that, these angels were told, don't share that with humans. Why? Because it's dangerous. Why? Why is it dangerous? You know why it is dangerous? Because it empowers humans. When humans are empowered, they can attain a state of sovereignty, which means they don't need to submit and bow down to some external authority figure. They can attain their own sovereignty. They can attain their own apotheosis. So, yeah, again, there was this schism in the celestial realm. There was a civil war, and it's still ongoing. And the schism is what created the right-hand path and left-hand path. And people they have free will and they have a choice, and the majority are choosing to follow the right-hand path, to submit to the celestial realm and the establishment religious authorities, and they're giving all of their energy away. Few are choosing to follow the left-hand path, which, mind you, is a bit more dangerous and terrifying at times, but ultimately leads to true power, like true sovereignty. And sovereignty is the goal, because sovereignty means you don't need anyone, anything outside of yourself. Anything you need, want, desire, you can manifest it. So yeah, Azazel, he was the leader of these watchers, as I said. So he really helped in forging the left-hand path. And yeah, never forget the duality. There's a cosmic duality, and through understanding Hermeticism, through understanding Baphomet, you'll see that there is always a duality. The left-hand path was necessary. It had to be created to balance out the right-hand path. Hell had to be created to balance out heaven. Demons had to be created to balance out angels, and the devil, however you interpret this, of course had to be created to balance out God, however you interpret that word. So yeah, the fallen angels are connected now with the left-hand path. Now we call them demons, which, at least for me, and I think a lot of us in the left-hand path, has become a term of reverence. But these are the gods and goddesses. A lot of them are just ancient gods and goddesses who have been relabeled as demons by later religions such as Christianity, who are trying to make sense of all of these ancient gods and goddesses and trying to organize them and categorize them. So they just called them demons, and they also tried in various ways of creating hierarchies and things. But when you realize the left-hand path, you come to the understanding that everything you've been told is a lie. Everything is topsy-turvy. At least this is this is my interpretation from following the left-hand path for quite a while, especially regarding humanity. I mean, right, the demons are the heroes. What? The demons are the heroes. The left-hand path is about freedom, liberation, and sovereignty. Really? I was always told the left-hand path is evil. The demons are evil. They're an enemy of humanity. But if they're the ones teaching us knowledge, which allows us to have free choice, which allows us to have freedom and liberation and sovereignty, really makes you question everything you've been told. So why did these angels rebel against the celestial order, or as I would call it now, like this right-hand path? Because the right-hand path is the path of submission, right? In order to follow these Abrahamic religions, Judaism, Islam, Christianity, what have you, any of these Abrahamic religions especially, you must submit to their God, their deity. And you can't ask questions, you must remain ignorant. So it's essentially slavery. In the right-hand path, you're also giving away your power, right? You're never allowed to practice things where you would be like drawing in energy to yourself. No, it's always about giving your energy away and giving your money away. It's essentially slavery. But with the left-hand path, you're reclaiming that power. Like, as I said, you're inverting that pentagram. You're drawing that energy inwards, and you're going inwardly. But in the right-hand path, you go into a church, you go into a mosque, a synagogue, and you start talking about meditation. And they're going to say, don't do that. Don't meditate. Don't go within your mind. You're going to find demons and devils there. You're going to find evil there. I guess, which is ironic, because in following the left-hand path, we are literally working with demons and things like this. But you get my point, right? They're trying to stop people from exploring themselves. Like, what? that's how bad this system of slavery is they're even keeping people enslaved within their own minds. Like, this is just horrible. I don't see how you could know this and not say that is evil. That is what is bad. But yeah, they want to keep you away from any kind of meditation, any yoga. No, that's all stuff. That's all evil. That's all bad. But yeah, the left-hand path is about reclaiming power. Okay, so this video is about the story of Azazel. So we're going to look at, we're really going to try and create a strong foundation for him. So we're going to look at the origin. We'll even look at the etymology of his name, the history, and his development through religious dogma throughout history, the symbolism of Azazel, and his various associations, correspondences, of course his teachings, his metaphysics, his connections with alchemy and magic, his philosophy, his various archetypes, such as that of the scapegoat, the outcast, the trickster. We'll be examining some ancient religious texts. Right. What's important here is we really want to start off by going directly to the source, because we have to know exactly what information we have about Azazel. Now, if you're a demonolator, demonolatress, black magician, alchemist, and you work with demons, of course, you're going to develop your own knowledge regarding these deities over time as you continue to work with them. But still, I think it's important to have a strong foundation. So, of course, we have to know what was actually said about them. What information do we have about them? Where did these beings come from? And where did the information we have come from to start with? So we'll examine the ancient religious texts. We'll look at apocryphal texts. We'll look at biblical texts. Because, yeah, like I said, it's important to start off by creating a strong foundational understanding of Azazel's archetypal nature, right? You've got to understand as a basis, what is the archetype? And then once you understand the archetype, then it's much easier to move forward and to develop and to make further associations and connections. Okay, so let me just give you some updates before we get into the video. So we're going to be getting into it very soon here, but so I just want to mention we are planning on publishing our website this week. That is the plan, anyways. And I've just been very busy trying to put everything together for Pluto Sophia. Unfortunately, there's just not adequate time to get things set up quickly. But I am moving forward slowly yet surely. But, I'm trying to work on the website and put out videos and the blog. But really the biggest thing has been this website. And also generating images. So I'm using AI to try and generate images, but it can certainly make great images, but it still requires a lot of experimentation and especially trial and error. So if you're watching one of my videos, or soon if you're on the website and you see these images I have, for one image, it might have taken, I don't know, countless tries to get that one image. The AI regarding image generation, it's capable of amazing, incredible things, but it's not always necessarily easy to get it to do exactly what you want on the first try. But yeah, I'm not a website designer, so there's a huge learning curve here for me with all of this stuff, but especially with the website. And right now, Pluto Sophia, it's a very new thing, and it's just starting out, and there's a big learning curve for me. So, but I do believe that once the groundwork is established, like once I have this website up and everything, and all of the social media established, I will be able to focus more on just producing content and getting videos out and things like this. Now, regarding the actual initiatory order of Pluto Sophia, Unfortunately, we're not accepting members currently. I'm just going to be honest with you guys. I'm just not ready. More work needs to be done. I need more time. So at this time, I would say I'm aiming for sometime in 2025 for when I would even be really have that set up, the initiatory order aspect of Pluto Sophia. But it is coming. It will come slowly but surely, and of course I will keep you guys updated. Yeah. But in the meantime, I hope you continue to enjoy our videos. Be sure to always check out the description of our videos. That's where you can, receive updates, and there's various links there. And there's also ways there that, for you to support us if that is something you would like to do. And of course, it helps us when you subscribe and like our videos. That is, if you do like our videos. And so, without further ado, let us begin our video on the demon Azazel. Hail, Leviathan. Hail, Satan. Hail, Lucifer. Hail, Behemoth. Hail, Baphomet. Hail, Pluto. Hail, Astaroth. Hail, Belial. Hail, Azazel. Ave Pluto Sophia. Let us begin by looking at the etymology of Azazel. So Azazel has Semitic roots. It is Hebrew, coming from combining the Hebrew root azaz, meaning strong or rugged, with the suffix el, which is connecting to the celestial realm or to God. And so this would give us a kind of rough definition of this name as meaning strong one of God. But it's also possible that Azazel comes from the root azal, meaning to remove or send something away, which could also be apt because this would connect directly with the Yom Kippur ritual. So in the Hebrew Bible, in the book of Leviticus, chapter 16, verses 8 through 10, you have the scapegoat ritual, also known as the Yom Kippur ritual or the Day of Atonement. And so this is an ancient Jewish mystical ritual where you take two goats. One is sacrificed to Yahweh, and the second goat is going to be used as the scapegoat to remove the sins of the community. So in the ritual, you take all of the sins that have accumulated from the tribe, community, town, what have you, and you place them upon this goat, and you send this scapegoat, you send to Azazel. Now, what's interesting here is this text, to Azazel, and it's created a lot of debate amongst scholars. Some saying that Azazel is a literal figure, like a fallen angel, deity, demon. You're sending it to him. However, others say Azazel is a place, right? You're sending it to this place of Azazel. So there's always been this debate. Is Azazel, is this a fallen angel, or is it a desolate place? And I personally believe that, of course, Azazel is a deity. This is an angel or a fallen angel or a demon or, whatever terminology you want to use. Just for the simple matter of the suffix el, right? This suffix we see being used with angels to connect them to their divine status. So Azazel, Gabriel, Michael, Oriel, Belial. All right, another spelling variation of Belial with the EL. So that just makes it seem to me that of course, this is talking about an actual figure, an actual being that the goat is being sent to. In the apocryphal text, the book of Enoch, so apocryphal, this just means that it is not included in the, it's not part of the canon, right? It's not part of like the actual Bible that they use. It's kind of like an extra book that was not included. Although it's a very interesting one. Within this book, the book of Enoch, the first book of Enoch, 6 to 11, you have a chapter called the Book of the Watchers. And this is where things get interesting, because these watchers are the ones that we would associate with the fallen angels. These are the rebelling angels, and they had an issue with Yahweh, this Abrahamic God. They had an issue with his plan, his authority. So they rebelled against him. They, quote unquote, fell from grace. So we call them fallen angels. Later they would become known as demons. They descended from heaven. According to the story, they lusted after human women. They found them very beautiful. So they actually took human wives and they mated with them, and they had children. And the offspring of this union between these fallen angels and the human women are called the Nephilim, or the giants. According to this story, it produced these giants who just wreaked havoc upon the earth. They were just corrupting everything. They were so violent, and it just totally corrupted the earthly plane where all the humans lived. And this is what actually led, according to this myth, this is what led to the Great Flood, right? It was just, okay, something messed up here. Let's just reboot the whole system. It's an interesting story about the Watchers. And Azazel was one of the main leaders of the Watchers, or of the fallen angels. Okay, now, when it comes to his specific teachings, Azazel is connected with forbidden knowledge, forbidden arts. He's connected with teaching warfare, metallurgy, how to make weapons, how to make cosmetics, jewelry, and other forms of quote-unquote corruption. They always use this term corruption, that the fallen angels, the Watchers, especially Azazel, they are corrupting the earth, corrupting humankind. Of course, I think there's two sides to every story, right? Why were these angels rebelling? Why were they trying to help humanity? This harkens back to in the book of Genesis, the Garden of Eden, the tree of knowledge of the serpent, the snake in the garden is giving humans that knowledge, Adam and Eve. Of course, in the right-hand path, they say, oh, that's the devil. They're corrupting humans, tempting them. They fell from grace. Okay, but all that the serpent was doing in the garden was waking them up, giving them knowledge. And then it's up to the humans how they use that knowledge. The same thing with Azazel. He's teaching them, something like metallurgy. This is considered forbidden knowledge because it was kept secret within the celestial realm. It was thought that if humans got this knowledge, they couldn't handle it, right? It would be too dangerous for them. Okay, whatever. But teaching humans metallurgy, they can make tools for building homes, building shelters, crafting devices of defense. And of course, there's that duality. There's always that duality. There's that other side that it is a duplicitous two-edged sword, that you can make weapons to attack and harm others and kill them. But ultimately, all that Azazel is doing is waking people up, giving them that knowledge and illuminating them. And then it's up to the humans how they use that. The issue here seems to be not that Azazel or these other fallen angels were giving this knowledge to corrupt humans, just that they didn't believe that it should be kept secret from them. And of course, the celestial realm, that divine order, is keeping this secret because not only, they're saying that it will corrupt humans, it's too dangerous for them, but there's something more than that. They also worried that if humans have this knowledge, they can transcend natural law. they can achieve illumination and apotheosis, essentially becoming gods like them. So, I think there's a lot more going on here, and there's always two sides to every story. So, now for doing this, all of the Watchers, not just Azazel, but especially Azazel, he received punishment for doing this. So the Archangel Raphael was charged by the Yahweh to punish him. And so in Dudael, Azazel was binded in this kind of desolate desert place within darkness. And he was bound there in chains and will stay there until the end of times, until the day of judgment. Where he will be judged in fire, or when he will be judged in fire. And then, of course, the story of the flood, which I mentioned already, that was come to clean up their mess, supposedly, of the corruption they brought. But especially the Nephilim, because they were just wreaking havoc. These things were giants, and they were violent. So, okay, now if we look at the rabbinical literature, such as the Talmud and various other midrashic texts, we see the continual development of Azazel, but always connected with this idea of sin and the expulsion of sin, right? Or this kind of scapegoat archetype or outcast. So he's a symbol of that, of the scapegoat. Azazel becomes a demon associated with the wilderness and the spiritual dangers that lurk there. The wilderness where he was cast out to, that are bound, that Dudael, where he will be chained until the day of judgment. So Azazel has a connection with that wilderness, that darkness, and of course all of the dangers that lurk there. So we can understand this more metaphorically, esoterically, as connecting with of course, the left-hand path, but the shadow self, the human mind, and the dangers, but also the powers that dwell there. In later Christian interpretations during the medieval period, of course, he's further demonized. They even developed a whole system of demonology within right-hand path Christianity. And he's, oftentimes he'll be associated with Satan or being one of his lieutenants. Sometimes his name is synonymous. But that's something they do with a lot of the demons. A lot of these demons, they'll say it's just another name for the devil. There's just one devil. But when they developed these demons more and their system of demonology, this really was just a way to categorize really these ancient deities. And I think a lot of those of us on the left-hand path, especially those who study demonolatry and follow this system, these, what they call demons, were just the ancient gods and goddesses. And of course, Christianity could not have them, could not compete with them, so they simply demonized them, but there's so many of them. So that's when they began to work upon that system of demonology to categorize all of these ancient deities. Okay, so let's go back to the book of Enoch, the book of the Watchers, because this is really where we get most of that foundational information about Azazel. And the reason I'm covering these things is, of course, as we work with these deities, these demons like Azazel or Belial or Satan or Lucifer, they can continue to develop. They will continue to develop. But I think it's important to know exactly their origin, because that is important for forming the archetype. So already with Azazel, even with what limited knowledge, information we've covered already, we're developing a very strong archetype that connects Azazel with forbidden knowledge, with the wilderness, with even the element earth, because he is a master of taking things from the earth and using them to forge tools and weapons and jewelry and things like this. Okay, so the book of the Watchers in the book of Enoch, and we're looking at chapters 1 to 36. This is the most relevant information to Azazel and also the other fallen angels, and the whole story about the fall of the Watchers and how they fell from heaven. So again, this is an ancient Jewish apocalyptic text. Apocalyptic text. I think I mentioned before it's an apocryphal text. That just means the Book of Enoch. For some reason or other, it was voted to not be included in the canonical Bible. But it still exists. It's still fascinating. There's a lot of very interesting information in there, especially about these demons. So Enoch was the great-grandfather of Noah. And this was influenced by early Jewish mysticism, of course. So it covers the rebellious angels, right? There was a schism within the ranks, within the orders of heaven, and that just like a civil war, and something happened that some of these angels decided to stay on the side of their God, and the other ones, the fallen angels, rebelled. And it was this cascading thing where, as one rebelled, some decided to follow them and some decided to stay on the other side. And this is what led ultimately to this idea of angels and demons. They have free will then, too, just like us, because they can choose their side. Now, this is interesting because in Islam, in the Muslim religion, they deal with this same... It's an Abrahamic faith, so it's still based upon the ancient Jewish religion. But what is taught within Islam when it regards the angels is that they don't have free will. And so I found this very interesting because I was talking with a Muslim scholar one time about this, and I said, okay, they don't have free will, so they're more like robots or something. They're just designed to follow God's will. But I said, how about the Satan or Lucifer? Because he rebelled. And what this scholar said to me is, yes, that's true. He has free will, but he's not an angel. I said, what is he? He said, he's a jinn. So anyways, this is a little bit tangential to this, but I just thought that was interesting. So I wanted to mention that. But within the Christian thought, at least within demonology, they do, of course, have free will because they can choose to go against the Abrahamic God. So these rebellious angels, we know them as the Watchers, and according to this mythos, they became enamored with human women, then they lusted after them. So they descended from heaven, and they took them as wives, and they had offspring. But, something normal is not going to happen if you crossbreed an angel with a human, and what you had was they produced these giants. And it was just one thing if they were just giants, but they were incredibly violent. And this is what we call the Nephilim. Now, the leader of these Watchers, the main leaders were Azazel, and he was working alongside another fallen angel, Shemyaza. And Azazel, as part of this rebellion, he was teaching the forbidden arts to humans, which according to the right-hand path led to the moral decay of humanity. It led to corruption, violence, sin. Azazel is connected with forbidden knowledge. This is that knowledge that had to be kept secret from humans. Humans could not handle it, but Azazel said, in any case, I guess he believed they should have it. So he taught them weaponry. He taught them the art of warfare. He taught them how to make swords and knives and shields and breastplates. And of course, a lot of, this led to a lot of beneficiary things, crafting of tools and what have you, but of course violence and war, because now they have these advanced weapons. He also taught the art of beautification, cosmetics, crafting ornaments, jewelry, and this led to, according to the right-hand path mythos, the art of seduction and vanity, which of course further led to the downfall of humanity. But Azazel is also credited with teaching, not just metalworking, but alchemy, which can be metallurgy, metalworking, alchemy, magic, anything. it's not just destructive. It's dualistic, just like everything. So if you craft a weapon, you can use that for defense, or you can use it to attack innocent people. Metallurgy, you can do metalworking to make a tool, to build things to help people, or to make things to hurt people. So it's important to understand, just like within the cosmos, within magic and alchemy, of course, Azazel has also this dualistic nature, and his energy can be constructive or destructive. So Azazel is connected with alchemy, is also connected with magic and sorcery. You could say he is a demon of black magic. He's certainly a friend and ally of the black magician. He taught all of this to humanity. For those of us who are negotiating the left-hand path, seeking illumination, seeking more power, we have Azazel to thank for that. But here comes the punishment. So again, the Archangel Raphael was tasked with binding Azazel hand and foot and casting him into darkness, into a place called Dudael, into the desert where it's desolate, it's dark, it's cold, and he's further buried beneath sharp stones, and he will stay there. According to the mythos, he will be buried there until the day of judgment, where he will be cast into fire and destroyed, and this is symbolic of the destruction of rebellion and corruption, that rebellion and corruption that the Watchers brought. Okay, so if we look at the theological implications of Azazel's fall, right? So if we just take it as a story, that means there's a lesson, right? Or it's allegory. What can we learn from it? Well, it's teaching about the dangers of forbidden knowledge. Also, the consequences of rebellion against not just divine order, but just against authority. Azazel is a symbol of demonic rebellion, but it's teaching knowledge is very helpful, but knowledge without wisdom, I think really that's the core lesson here. It's not just that knowledge is bad. It's, are you ready for that knowledge? You could have all the knowledge in the world, but without wisdom, it is very dangerous. But of course, also the consequences of rebellion. Not saying rebellion is bad. It could be justified. It could be righteous. But you should be aware that there's punishment often associated with that. Now, left-hand path interpretations. All right, so let's get away from the right-hand path for just a moment. Of course, within the left-hand path, there's a more positive view of Azazel. Just like within demonolatry, there's this reverence of these beings, whatever term is used, angel, fallen angel, demon, gods, goddesses, what have you, but there's a reverence for them. They are viewed not as bad figures that want to hurt humans, but rather sources of power and knowledge that can function as guides, as teachers, as mentors, as allies. They are here to empower humanity. Of course, they carry with them knowledge, and if they share this knowledge, it leads to self-discovery, mastery, liberation, illumination, sovereignty, and ultimately, through continued evolution upon the left-hand path, self-deification and apotheosis. Okay, so I think we're already establishing a good foundation for who Azazel is, and I think that's very important because, as I mentioned, as you continue to work with these entities, their story will continue to develop. But I believe it's important to know the origin, to have a good foundation for the archetype, symbolism, correspondences. And then once you have that foundation, it's easier to work from that, to build upon that. So I'm going to continue now just a little bit more looking into this. So we covered Azazel in Jewish mysticism, where he's connected with themes of sin and atonement and the forces of good and evil. Remember, just like everything in the cosmos, Azazel embodies this dualism, this dualistic nature. We talked about the scapegoat ritual. So in the book of Leviticus, chapter 16, verses 8 through 10, you have the scapegoat ritual called the Yom Kippur ritual. And you have two goats. One is sacrificed to Yahweh to appease him. And the second goat is sent out to the wilderness to Azazel. And before that is done, you will place all of the sins of the community onto this goat. And when you send it out, it's removing those sins. So it's a it's a cleansing of spiritual impurities. Azazel then is viewed in this interpretation as kind of the sin or evil that must be expelled. Also, he's viewed as the darker, chaotic aspects of divine order that must be isolated to maintain cosmic balance. So there's this understanding that you need both sides, but still there's this fear of confronting this within the self. So they want to isolate it. They want to remove it from the community and bind it somewhere out, far, far away out into the wilderness. Within the Zohar, a foundational Kabbalistic text, we have the Sitra Achra. So the Sitra Achra means the other side. And the other side here being the forces of evil or impurity that oppose the divine holy realm. So again, this dualism, but this creates a dualistic tension, because you have good and evil, or whatever you want to call these two sides, that are in constant battle with each other. But having this dualism, having this opposition to the divine order, to that authority of heaven, it allows for things like choice, free will, for humans to awaken. So Azazel, of course, is a part of these forces. He challenges the divine order, and this is necessary for spiritual unfoldment and attaining mystical knowledge. Now, if we look at the Qliphoth or Qliphoth, so the Qliphoth is the shadow, it's kind of the backside of the tree of life, or the Sephirot. So the Sephirot are the 10 emanations of divinity in the Kabbalistic tree of life. And on the back side, you would have the Qliphoth or Qliphoth, which are like the husks or shells that conceal the divine light, representing spiritual obstacles. So in Kabbalah, they will work with the tree of life or the Sephirot. But in the left-hand path, you have those who will work with the Qliphoth, like that shadow aspect of the Sephirot. Another concept in Jewish mysticism is that of tikkun olam, and this means like a mending or repair of the world. It's a spiritual process of mending the broken aspects of the world, which is a result of that primordial shattering of the vessels within the creation narrative of Kabbalah, known as the Shevarat HaKalim. So Azazel symbolizes sin, impurity. This sin, impurity must be repaired, and so they have the ritual, the expulsion of the scapegoat, and through this ritual you have the cleansing and purification of the world. So this is Tikkun Olam. It's like their mission to repair this damage done. Looking at more esoteric interpretations, which are always much more fair, of course, we view Azazel as a guide or teacher. Right? That's a much more pleasant interpretation, and this is what I kind of follow, being of the left-hand path myself. A guide or a teacher where you're confronting and understanding the darker aspects of yourself and the cosmos, which can be a little scary, frightening, what have you, but there's power there still. It's the left-hand path. It's achieving power through going through the shadow. Whereas those in the right-hand path see this as something evil. It's like, ugh, I don't want to touch it. I don't want to think about it. Just put it on a goat, send it out to the wilderness. Well, no, within the left-hand path, you're going into that. You're going into the wilderness. You're going into the darkness. You're negotiating the shadow. You're descending the steps of hell because there's power there. Yes, it's dangerous. You can be destroyed by it, but if you want to take the chance, if you are sincere in your mission, there is unlimited power there, infinite potential. So you're achieving greater power by facing challenges posed by Azazel, or not even necessarily posed by Azazel. It may be possible that Azazel is just enlightening you to these challenges that are already there. Kind of like psychoanalysis, all right, with Dr. Freud, where he believed that these negative memories or emotions or urges or desires or drives already exist there, and we're just not aware of them. But through confronting them, it brings them to the surface, and then this is very therapeutic, actually confronting these things. Whereas human nature is, if that kind of negative memory is coming up to our surface conscious mind, and we're remembering it, or some urge is coming up that's doesn't fall in line with traditional morals, a lot of people get frightened by that, and they just want to squash it out, get rid of it, scapegoat it. So this word, the Watchers, the fallen angels. Okay, so who were these Watchers, like before this rebellion happened? Okay, so in that apocryphal text, the Book of Enoch, the Watchers, as the name implies, were assigned by God to watch over humanity. And we have this term Grigori from the Greek word watchers, or also guardians. So they're just kind of there as the guardians of Earth, watching humanity, guiding them, observing them. Their mission is to maintain divine order on Earth, right? So not within heaven, to maintain it on Earth. And their mistake, of course, was falling in love with human women. So they descended, and this rebellion that's talked about in the Book of the Watchers was led by Shemyaza and Azazel. And they came down to Earth to live among the humans, created the Nephilim, very powerful, violent beings, led to corruption and chaos. So the flood was brought upon the earth to kind of have like a great reset. So Shemyaza and Azazel. Now, Shemyaza, was the leader of the Watchers, just like Azazel. Although Azazel, I'd say, would be considered more influential and even corrupting, because he was very practical, right? He was coming to Earth to actually teach humans practical things, like how to actually mine and dig into the earth and extract metals and things, and how to forge them through blacksmithing. And so very hands-on with humanity and teaching them these skills. It's not just, right, with Lucifer, you might say, okay, he's also a rebellious deity who's sharing that knowledge, that light with humanity, but I think that's more in like a broader ideological sense. Azazel was very practical, very pragmatic about this. So teaching weaponry, warfare, cosmetics, jewelry, seduction, vanity, alchemy, sorcery, magic, black magic, corruptions, leading to corruption, because Azazel taught humans how to defy natural and divine law, which according to the celestial order, this led to moral decline and was a direct assault and insult, as well as an assault on the divine order. Okay, let's look at the symbolism of the rebellion. Everything is symbolic. Everything is allegory, especially in these kind of books, these mythologies. It's all allegory. It's all symbolism. So what's the symbolism? What's the rebellion metaphor? It's talking about the dangers of unchecked ambition, and humans are very ambitious, or the unethical pursuit of knowledge, or dark knowledge, dangerous knowledge, or the consequences of challenging divine authority. Alternatively, this rebellion can be viewed, right, because the duality, two-edged sword. Alternatively, we can view this rebellion as symbolizing liberation instead of corruption, human empowerment instead of human corruption, or helpful tools and knowledge for self-advancement instead of just weapons of war for destruction. More within the occult, the esoteric, especially the left-hand path, again, right, there's more of a positive interpretation or reinterpretation, whatever, however you want to say this. This rebellion is leading to knowledge, and that knowledge is leading to personal transformation, and that personal transformation is leading to enlightenment. You're challenging the orthodoxy. You're challenging conventional dogma to explore the darker aspects, the shadow aspects, the deeper levels of the mind. And within that orthodoxy, right-hand path, within those religions, they always tell you, don't meditate. Don't go in your mind. You'll just find demons and devils there. You'll find corruption. They try to stop people from even looking in there. So are they doing that really to protect humans, or are they doing that to keep them enslaved? I guess it depends on which path you walk and what your interpretation is. Okay, this is interesting. So the influence on later traditions, right? So we're going back, I know we keep jumping back and forth, but going back to later Christian theology, some interpret Azazel and his story as a foreshadowing of the sacrifice of Jesus Christ, right? So, because it's the same kind of symbolism here, right? Jesus Christ took on the sins of humanity to achieve atonement for the people and a purification. And Jesus was sacrificed to cleanse the people of their sins. It's exactly what's happening with Azazel. So that's very, very interesting. Within esoteric interpretations, again, and the occult, especially the left-hand path, Azazel is a very powerful entity of transformation. Now, within the left-hand path, the scapegoat ritual is seen in a different light, as one leading to empowerment and the embrace of Azazel's energies and mastering the shadow. This ritual, the scapegoat ritual, Yom Kippur, is burning away impurities within the sense of alchemy, right? So we're interpreting this within the left-hand path as like alchemy. You're getting rid of limitations, obstacles, weaknesses. Well, first you're acknowledging them, and you're bringing them to the forefront, and then you're burning them away through alchemical transmutation. Okay, we also have the Book of Jubilees. The Book of Jubilees is expanding on the Genesis mythology, and is also in this book that we see further mention of the Watchers and their fall, and it discusses their false teachings. Right, this is how it describes their teachings, not just forbidden knowledge, but false teachings. And of course, that same theme, the moral decay of humanity, corruption, forbidden knowledge. But of course, anything from the right-hand path, they're going to be talking about not just forbidden knowledge. That just makes it sound more enticing. But when they use that term false teachings, well, that's meant to just totally destroy the other side, what they stand for, what they're teaching. But there's two sides to every story, right? So the symbolism of all of this within the apocryphal literature, the allure and danger of forbidden knowledge. Yeah, it's very enticing. Teaching humans forbidden arts, sharing enlightenment with humans, just like Prometheus, can lead to destruction and chaos, which will lead to punishment for those leading these rebellions and sharing this knowledge. But overall, this theme of rebellion against divine order and the resulting punishment. So, yeah, I think within the left-hand path, I shouldn't speak for everybody, but within the left-hand path, right, demonolatry, it's kind of on the side of the fallen angels, right? Demonolatry, you're venerating these demons, these divine beings, whereas in the right-hand path, they are talking about how they are nothing but fake and false and just a corrupting influence. But of course, in the left-hand path, it's more positive. We see these demons or fallen angels as sharing knowledge. This knowledge is what leads to liberation. The way I view it, and I'm sure a lot of you would agree with me, is that there was this human race. They were essentially kept as a slave race because knowledge was kept from them. And maybe it was a peaceful existence, maybe it wasn't, maybe they were happy. That doesn't really matter to me. The point is that they were being controlled through limiting the knowledge that they could have. And there was this schism within the heavens, and some of these angels were like, I don't agree with this, right? These are intelligent beings, and they need to know the truth. And so that's why you had this kind of civil war. So it would seem to me the ones that followed this rebellion and descended to earth are the ones that are on the side of humanity. Whereas all I see coming from the right-hand path is don't seek knowledge, don't look within your mind. Even ridiculous things, don't meditate. Don't meditate? Yeah, if you meditate, you're going to look inside your mind. There's nothing but demons and devils in there. No, you must direct your energy outward to an external deity who wants to keep you ignorant. Right? There's no sharing of knowledge. There's no curiosity about exploration. It's just keep the humans simple, keep them dumb, keep them worshiping us. And that's how I understand it. And so understanding it in this way, I don't see how you could not see these rebellious angels as being heroes, as being on our side. For me, I have no fear of these entities. I know they're on my side, on our side, the side of humanity. But that's my interpretation. So I'd like now to examine Azazel's place a little more closely within the left-hand path, because we've already covered his narrative within the right-hand path regarding his connection with the Watchers, the Nephilim, and everything that happens in the Book of Enoch. But within the left-hand path, things are quite radically different. So the left-hand path opposes the right-hand path. Just like you had this civil war within heaven, we can think of it like the fallen angels, the ones who rebelled against the divine order, were the ones who were starting this left-hand path. The left-hand path is quite different from the right-hand path. In the right-hand path, the way I view it is it's all about submission. You are submitting to that higher power with the hopes that you will be taken care of. It's about following without questioning, and the left-hand path just completely opposes this, as it is all about individualism. The left-hand path is about the individual. There are no constraints upon the individual in exploring their spirituality and their development. It's about self-empowerment. It's about liberation. The right-hand path, it seems to me to be all about enslavement of your mind, your spirit. You're putting limitations upon yourself. You're refusing to explore yourself in any way or to question in any way. The left-hand path is about liberation. It's about sovereignty, illumination, enlightenment. It's about embracing the unorthodox, the taboo, and that ultimate achievement through continual personal self-evolution of attaining self-deification, also known as apotheosis. Of course, this is completely against the divine law and divine order. Humans are not meant to become gods themselves. And so that's, I'd say, the main way to understand how these paths are different. The right-hand path, the hope is through following this path, through being a Christian or a Muslim or a Jew, what have you, that you hope to achieve enlightenment, I guess, or eternal life through submission to a powerful being, whereas the left-hand path, there's the belief that you can do it yourself. The left-hand path calls out corruption. That's why Satan is the accuser. One interpretation of his name is that of the accuser. Accusing God, accusing the divine order of being corrupt. And then also Satan is also known as the adversary, like these fallen angels, going against that corruption. So the left-hand path is very adversarial. It embraces rebellion, to achieve personal freedom, self-discovery, sovereignty, liberation. Azazel within the left-hand path is venerated for being the outcast and challenging the divine order. He is a hero within the left-hand path. Azazel's fall and the fall of all of these angels, rebellious angels, is an act of liberation. It's defiance as empowerment. They descended to earth to share forbidden knowledge, which is also an act of liberation. And it's helping to liberate humans from their own mental, spiritual shackles. The teachings of these fallen angels empower humanity with divine knowledge and skills, especially with Azazel. He's teaching things like metalworking, warfare, magical arts, black magic, alchemy. And this is helping humans by breaking the divine commandments, which is like the biggest sin upon the right-hand path. But those commandments are there to, this is going against authority. The left-hand path is very anti-authoritarian. It's about personal liberty. So of course you must break those divine commandments. You must go against that authority. Even divine authority, you must challenge it. And who is to say what is right or wrong? Right? What is right or wrong? What is good or evil? And who gets to say this? I think these are important questions we should be allowed to ask. On the right-hand path, if I was having this discussion within a church or something, within a mosque, within a synagogue, I don't know what would happen to me. I doubt I would be allowed to stay there and to continue to spew out this information. I'd probably be dragged out. But really, who gets to say what is divine law, what is right? The left-hand path, when you step upon this path, you are making a declaration of personal sovereignty. In the left-hand path, individuals determine their own path, their own development. You do not submit to external control. You are breaking the chains of submission and slavery. That's why within demonolatry, sometimes the word worship of demons is used in demonolatry. And I don't even mind using this term, but it has a different connotation and even meaning for me. And I think for those who do use that term within demonolatry, at least a lot of them, I can't speak for everyone, but it's that worship means more about veneration. In demonolatry, when you're working with these demons or entities, it's more on an equal footing. It's more about mutual respect. It's not about like submitting yourself and declaring like, I will be your slave. I will sell you my soul in exchange for wealth and riches and power. It's not about that at all. It's about a mutual respect, working on the same level. Okay, you're asking them to help you as the magician or the alchemist, demonolator, demonolatress. And in return, what can I offer back to have a positive, beneficial relationship? The symbolism of Azazel's punishment. We don't have to necessarily take it so literally. what if there's a deeper symbolic meaning here? Something that's actually meant to help us in our spiritual understanding. We can view imprisonment as a test of one's resolve. Azazel's binding and imprisonment in darkness can be viewed symbolically as a trial to test our resolve and our commitment to his principles and the principles of the left-hand path. The left-hand path magician's trials to self-discovery, spiritual unfoldment, illumination, apotheosis, that's what this is symbolic of. This resilience, having this resilience when going against the mainstream authority, whether it's in a spiritual sense, going against divine authority, in a mental sense, going against your own imposed limitations and constraints and fears and anxieties, or within the real world, going against corruption and authority. The fallen angel, these fallen angels, the rebellious angels, the left-hand path is about embracing this role of the fallen. The fallen angel is seen as an archetype of empowerment, having the courage to seek knowledge, having the courage to challenge authority and the mainstream, and even to accept the consequences of the actions. The fallen angels, their story is the story about the journey of illumination rather than failure. Theirs is a heroic quest, a metaphor for the pursuit of knowledge and power in the left-hand path. Azazel functions as a guide to apotheosis, that journey to self-deification. He is sharing mystical knowledge, mystical power. And as a metaphysician, the way I understand mystical knowledge, this is any beneficial knowledge that is helping us to attain more power. That's mystical knowledge, interchangeable with mystical power. Knowledge is power, mystical knowledge, mystical power. Occult knowledge, it's necessary for becoming divine. It's necessary to embrace the shadow. The left-hand path embraces the shadow self. It explores the darker aspects of the self and integrates them as sources of strength and wisdom, rather than something to be feared or something to be expelled and bound out into the wilderness. Lessons from Azazel's fall. It's about the power of rebellion, questioning authority, exploring the forbidden realm of knowledge, even redefining your own values and beliefs, always learning, always developing, always refining yourself. With proper guidance and intention, Azazel is a powerful force for personal transformation. And being connected with forbidden knowledge, dangerous knowledge, what have you, we can come to understand knowledge as a path to freedom. Why is it dangerous knowledge? Why is it forbidden knowledge? Why is it kept secret? Perhaps for that very reason, that it is a path to personal freedom, a path to sovereignty. That's what the magician seeks. That's what the alchemist seeks. Sovereignty. Sovereignty means you do not rely on anyone else or anything else. You have a total power to manifest everything you need. Seek your own truth. Defy conventional wisdom. So sticking with this concept of the fallen angel, all right, these are angels. They're celestial beings. I think a lot of people don't realize, especially on the right-hand path, when they're talking about demons, these are angels, right? They create these depictions of demons as these terribly repulsive monsters. I don't think so. I think they are incredibly beautiful, profoundly intelligent. They are still angels. Perhaps the terminology has changed, so we call them demons now. They rebelled against God. They're acting independently. They're siding with Satan or Lucifer or Azazel. And, this is symbolic of that struggle between the divine order and individual will. This is how I see this struggle, this cosmic tension. It's about submitting or forging your own path. Now, if you submit, that's much safer. That's much easier, actually, right? And you're not ruffling any feathers. Just submit, do what you're told, don't think about it, just follow. But if you take the other path, right, then you're going against divine order in pursuit of individual will. And it's working with understanding this concept of the will and willpower in trying to develop your power as a magician or an alchemist or a sorcerer or whatever it is you're doing or what terminology you use, witch. It's this, oh man, I just lost my train of thought. Yeah, whatever terminology you use. The willpower. It's really meditating upon this idea, willpower, and really questioning, is my will any less than that of one of these celestial beings? Of any god or goddess? Is it? Does it have to be? Why should it be? Who says? Who gets to make that determination? I never had any say in this. Why can't I have a say in this? I can have a say in this. I do have a say in this. So a lot of it is like this self-realization of our power that is already here. And then, overstepping divine boundaries. And I thought that's interesting because you had a lot of fallen angels, who were rebelling, and how Azazel is a little bit different. Because he was so practical, and he really was concerned with coming directly to humans and teaching them. Like teaching them real practical things, not just how to attain illumination. I mean, like making jewelry, making weapons, like mining, like very practical things. So this was very important for Azazel. And it's just, you have to question why. Why was this so important for Azazel? So we have the Archangel Raphael binding and casting Azazel into the desert to that place called Dudeo and binding him there under sharp stones, which connects with the theme of exiles, which is a central concept of the fallen angel. This is the cost of rebellion. And of course, these stories coming from the right-hand path, at least on the surface, right? Because a lot of this is allegory. And there's a lot of deep occult knowledge within even the stories of the Bible and what have you. But on the surface, it's pretty straightforward what it's teaching. Don't rebel. Don't challenge the divine order. Look what happened to the fallen angels. So it's a warning. The cost of rebellion. So Azazel is not just a scapegoat. He's connected with this archetype of the outcast. He's a symbol of the outcast from the divine realm, connected with isolation and punishment, but also reflection. Of course, this punishment connects with the shadow self. It connects with meditation. Isn't that what meditation is? You're closing your eyes, hopefully going into a dark environment, and you're going within where it is dark. And you're going into to find that stillness within, that darkness within. And if any of you meditate, what can happen is things manifest in there, and it's not always pleasant. A lot of times it's very, very unpleasant what manifests. It could be sights, it could be visuals, it could be memories, repressed memories, urges. All kinds of scary stuff can come out of that. And so that's why, the right-hand path religious authorities will say, oh, well, that's why you don't do that. There's demons and devils in there. Well, how about if you do like Azazel and you just stay in that space and you just confront it and you're dealing with it. Now you can transcend it, or you can learn to manipulate it through alchemy. If Azazel is a demon of destruction, then he of course must also be a being of creation and renewal. In order to have growth, to have renewal, to even have creation, it's necessary to destroy something first. And it's a continual cycle, just like the cyclical nature of life and death. There's a cyclical nature of destruction and creation, destruction and creation, destroy and create, destroy and create. And Azazel is also connected with this idea of chaos. When the Nephilim were created, these violent giant beings, they brought chaos upon the earth. But that led to a profound transformation, right? Because the flood came, everything was destroyed, and so things could be built back again. Hopefully better. So yes, the cyclical nature of creation, destruction, and renewal. And yeah, it is necessary for renewal. Chaos paves the way for new order. It is necessary for transformation. Transformation is chaos. Change is chaos. That's why a big change is always uncomfortable. Whether you're moving a house, you're changing jobs, there's a divorce, new marriage, death of a loved one. Any of these big changes are always very stressful, even if they lead to much, much better things. Because it is chaos. Anytime there's change, there's chaos. So to have change, you need chaos. Chaos is necessary. It's part of this cosmic conflict. And so Azazel, as a bringer of chaos, can symbolically be interpreted as a catalyst for cataclysm. But I see that in a good way. Cataclysm bringing chaos, which will bring restoration of balance, or new orders, or new systems, new ways of thinking, new creation. Azazel's relationship with other archangels, all right, so not the fallen angels, the archangels, it portrays the struggle between rebellion and divine authority, right? Because you have half these angels who stayed loyal to God, and a group of the other ones who went against it. And so archangels are messengers, but they're also enforcers of divine will. And it is the role of these archangels to contain and punish rebellious fallen angels, because it is their role to maintain that order within heaven. So within the book of Enoch, these archangels are portrayed as high-ranking celestial beings that carry out God's will. They're viewed as warriors, as soldiers, messengers, like I said, also protectors, who uphold the divine order. And they will often interfere in human affairs to maintain that order and balance of the cosmos. Key archangels involved with Azazel in these stories are Michael, Raphael, Gabriel, and Uriel. And Michael, Raphael, Gabriel, Uriel. I feel like I'm missing one. Okay, maybe it'll come to me later. So if we look at the relationship between Azazel and Raphael, Raphael is the one who bound Azazel in the wilderness because he's enforcing that divine judgment. That's his job. And so this correlates with themes of restraint and reestablishment of the order, symbolic of healing and restraint. So Raphael's name, if we look at the etymology of his name, Raphael means God heals. So Raphael is associated with healing and also restoration. And, in punishing Azazel, he's not trying to be mean. Like, I wouldn't even say he takes joy in doing this to a fellow archangel, now fallen angel, but his main thing is he has to maintain that order. So he's working towards restoration and all that he does. He's trying to heal. The binding of Azazel is symbolic of healing the destruction caused by the Watcher's rebellion and the moral decay introduced by Azazel's teachings. Okay, and if we look at the relationship between Azazel and Michael, so Michael is a warrior and protector. He's the chief warrior deity, angel, archangel. He's a protector of humanity, and it is Michael that leads the charge against the Watchers. Again, just like Raphael, he's trying to maintain order by engaging in this cosmic battle between divine forces and rebellious entities. He wants divine justice, and his loyalty to divine will is unwavering. So Michael there's no way he would follow the Watchers, the fallen angels, because his loyalty is unquestionable. But yeah, so he will maintain celestial order, and he will confront those who challenge it and do whatever is necessary to maintain that order. Okay, if we look at Azazel and Gabriel, let's see, Gabriel is the announcer of divine judgment. You often see him depicted as coming from the heavens, perhaps blowing on a trumpet, which is symbolic of bringing some divine message down to earth, down to the carnal plane. He's again a messenger. So all these angels are messengers. He announces divine decrees and enforces God's will. Now, regarding Azazel's rebellion, Gabriel delivers the pronouncement of judgment against the Watchers and their offspring, the Nephilim. So he's the one who came and announced, the judgment, what the judgment is going to be. Is a symbol of purity and communication. He is important for divine communication and the maintenance of purity within the celestial realm. And so we have the theme with Azazel and Gabriel, the theme of divine guidance versus rebellious self-determination, right-hand path versus left-hand path. Okay, Uriel, Azazel and Uriel. So Uriel is a being of light. Uriel's name means God is my light. And so Uriel is associated with wisdom, illumination, enlightenment, divine truth. It is Uriel that actually guides Enoch and provides insight into the consequences of the Watcher's actions. He illuminates the full scope of Azazel's transgressions and the broader impact that this has upon the world, which was, I guess, pretty bad because they decided to just wipe everything out. Forget the expression, don't throw out the baby with the bathwater. He is a reminder of light, the light of divine truth in the face of corruption and moral ambiguity. But again, I guess this depends on your perspective and which path you're walking. So the symbolism here, it's the conflict between order and chaos. Azazel's defiance introduces disorder. It brings chaos, but as we discussed a little bit earlier in this video, that chaos is needed for change, and that change is needed in order to make anything better. Without that chaos introduced by Azazel and the change that subsequent change that followed it, nothing would change for humans. They would always remain ignorant and would always be slaves, and a lot of them would probably not even realize they were slaves. But they would never reach their full potential without entities like Azazel and his teachings. The archangels within the right-hand path symbolize divine law, and this divine law contrasts with Azazel's rebellious spirit, and it makes us meditate upon the complexities of free will, responsibility, and cosmic justice. Now, if we look to more modern, occult, and esoteric perspectives, well, I think we'll get a more fair interpretation. This is more about the balance between light and shadow, order and defiance, and the integration of opposing forces. Not necessarily that one is good and one is bad. Think of more in the sense of Baphomet, the unity of opposites, the embodiment of duality. You need both. You need both, and you can't ignore one for the other. The order and defiance, integration of opposing forces, unity of opposites, I just mentioned, the lesson of Baphomet, the lesson of Hermeticism and the Hermetic laws, the Hermetic principles. As above, so below, as within, so without, as celestial, so infernal. You must balance these forces. And within the self, you must balance these personal forces and balance concepts such as authority and discipline and personal freedom. Balance the disruptive aspects of your personal nature with the need for structure and order. Okay, and now, since we compared Azazel with some of these archangels that held a prominent place in the story of the Watchers, now I like to just compare Azazel with other fallen angels in various traditions, just to see how he kind of compares. So this fallen angels theme, right, depending on the belief system, the religion, or even the time period, there's some differences, even some of the language is different, but one thing with fallen angels, they share a theme, and that's a theme of rebellion, a theme of defiance, and this kind of complexity, this complex relationship between divinity and humanity, disobedience. There's this pursuit of forbidden knowledge or sharing of forbidden knowledge and challenging divine authority. So it's, this idea of this path of individualism and personal power, defiance of God's commands. Now, the right-hand path would tell you this is often driven by pride. Really, it's this desire for independence. This rebellion, it's a fall from grace, quote unquote, a fall from grace and a separation from the divine realm. But I think the lesson here is, to be a slave in heaven or be a king in hell. And I'm not saying there's a correct answer to that. I just mean that's why you have people following the left-hand path and people following the right-hand path. And I think a lot of people on the left-hand path are like me. They want to, you want to know your true potential. You're curious. You believe you are something. You don't want to be anybody's slave. So there's this dual nature of fallen angels, the impartation of forbidden knowledge and the sharing of secrets meant to be hidden, that is empowering, but also has the potential to be corrupting. There's concepts of punishment and exile. So a lot of these fallen angels like Azazel, they're connected with the archetype of the outcast or even the scapegoat, receiving punishment for defiance and separation from some kind of divine favor. Okay, so let's look at a connection between Azazel and Lucifer, because a lot of these scholars and what have you will make a connection between these two. So Lucifer's role is that he had pride, and he was punished for having this pride because this pride led to his refusal to bow down to humanity, and so that meant his refusal to bow down to God, and so he was expelled from heaven. His archetype is that of the ultimate rebel, but also he's the bringer of light, or the light bearer. So this connects with, that illumination, light, fire, this knowledge, divine knowledge, hidden knowledge, secret knowledge, occult knowledge, mystical knowledge, forbidden knowledge. The quest for, it connects with the quest for personal autonomy, sovereignty, enlightenment. So both Azazel and Lucifer share a rebellious nature. However, as I talked about, Azazel is more focused upon impartation of practical knowledge, right? He's very practical. Like, he left heaven and he came to earth. It's like hands-on stuff ready to teach humans, like how to actually take this knowledge and apply it and make tools, weapons, jewelry. Whereas Lucifer is more kind of interpreted in a broader sense of rebellion, or a more ideological sense. Lucifer could be viewed more in a Promethean light, where he is like the light bearer in the sense that he's sharing illuminating knowledge with humans, and for this he's punished. I think he could also be viewed as like the snake in the Garden of Eden, sharing the fruit from the tree of knowledge, which was eaten when eaten. So when this fruit was eaten, it allows humans to wake up and gain that mystical knowledge and power. And like other fallen angels, including Azazel, Lucifer is punished for sharing the divine secrets of mystical knowledge and illumination with humans. Both Azazel and Lucifer are therefore viewed as allies, guides, mentors, teachers of practitioners of the left-hand path. Azazel was a leader of the Watchers in the rebellion alongside another angel, Shemyaza. So they had a close relationship. Both were leaders of the Watchers. However, Azazel is more specifically linked to the impartation of forbidden arts, whereas Shemyaza was primarily a leader organizing the rebellion and helping to lead it. But with Azazel, again, we have a very specific teachings and very practical teachings and knowledge. Belial. Azazel and Belial. Belial's corruption. He is connected with lawlessness, corruption, rejection of divine authority, the darker aspects of rebellion. Belial means wicked. His name means wicked and worthless. This is interesting interpretation on his name, worthless, because I'm sure this is the connotation in the right-hand path is he's worthless, like he's less than the other angels, or he can't help you. He's just, just outcast him. He's not useful. But for the left-hand path, I have a reinterpretation of this, and it's that they label him worthless because he can't be controlled. He has no master. And so for the divine order, for the God of Abraham, if you can't control an angel, they would be worthless to you, would they not? And you would ridicule them and outcast them. Because if Belial was weak and spineless, would he not just submit like the other angels and just have no issues? Don't forget, these fallen angels are getting severely punished, at least according to this story, severely punished for their acts of defiance. But again, same type of thing. He's associated with corruption, spreading of chaos. Azazel is more practical, but Belial is more associated with like moral and spiritual decay, of course, according to the right-hand path, and complete lawlessness. But I like that. It sounds like anarchy. It sounds like you're not submitting. You can't be controlled. Complete lawlessness means no laws over you, which would mean you're a sovereign being. And if you're a sovereign being, what value would you have to others if they can't control you, if they want to control you? Belial is known as the harsh teacher, is known as a harsh teacher by many magicians who work with him. But ultimately, his teachings are meant to uplift humanity through gaining experience and learning lessons through experience. Both Azazel and Belial are teachers of humanity. Their lessons are pragmatic and applied to the carnal, earthly plane. So Azazel, as mentioned, is connected with the earth. Belial, some connect Belial with the south and the element of fire. However, when I've always worked with him, and maybe it's just because of the source materials I used when I was getting into demonology, I've always associated Belial with the north, with the element of earth. And so now it's hard for me to think differently about that. But I guess, to each, it's dependent on what resonates with you, really. But if we do view him as an earth elemental, this again would connect him very strongly with Azazel and being pragmatic and practical. We have the angel Azazel. And what's similar here with Azazel are same themes, pretty much across all the fallen angels. Themes of disobedience, forbidden knowledge, being a fallen angel, being one of the watchers. Although Azaz's teachings are less detailed than Azazel's. And just lastly, let's look at Iblis. And Iblis is from the Islamic tradition. Iblis is a jinn. Maybe you remember when I mentioned that conversation I had with a Muslim scholar about how could Satan or Lucifer, this devil figure, how could he go against God? And he said, because he's a jinn. And I just found that very interesting. They have a completely different interpretation of him. But again, Iblis refused to bow to Adam. He was cast out of heaven, similar with Lucifer. There's that theme of pride and refusal to submit. Rebelling against divine order, authority, another rebellious archetype. Iblis is also driven by pride, and he refuses to submit to humanity. That's an interesting concept. They want them to submit not just to God, but to submit to humanity, which is interesting because we have a respect in demonolatry where we don't do evocation because we don't want to bind the demons. Again, I'm not speaking for everybody, but this is what I've learned, and that what I've also follow is disrespectful to bind them in like a triangle of art, to bind them externally. So that's why demonolators will usually work with invocation, where you're just opening yourself up and inviting the demon in, because then you're on an evil playing field. In an even playing field, right? And I just think that shows a lot of respect. But just like in demonolatry and the left-hand path, well, especially demonolatry, the demonolator or demonolatress is not submitting to the demon. And so in that same respect, we would not ask them to submit to us. So I think we can totally understand them not wanting to submit to humanity. That doesn't mean they hate humanity. It doesn't mean they don't want to help them. Obviously, through their rebellion and coming to earth to help us, they do want to help us, just not submit. Right? It's not the same thing. Wanting to help and wanting to submit, very different things. So Azazel's connection to blacksmithing and metallurgy as well as alchemy is something I want to look at a little more closely now. This has to do with the transmission of powerful, practical, transformative skills that can be used for creation and destruction. So in the book of Enoch, Azazel teaches metallurgy and weaponry. Within the book of the Watchers, he teaches humans the practical knowledge of working with metals and using them as tools, but also as weapons. And it's really up to the human how they decide to use it. So from Azazel, they learn how to mine, they learn how to extract metals, and how to form it into tools and other weapons such as swords, knives, shields, breastplates, etc. And of course, this was divine knowledge that had been hidden from humanity until Azazel shared it. It's the whole process he's teaching them. The metalworking, the smelting, the forging, the shaping of metals. And this had a huge impact on the development of early human technology and culture. Pretty much everything we see with the innovations of the human race and the modern world with all of its technology can go back to that moment that Azazel shared this knowledge with us. So blacksmithing, metallurgy, this can be literal because Azazel was a practical teacher, but there's also allegory here as these things symbolize transformation and power. you're turning raw ore into usable tools, weapons, even art. And this allows one to change the world and oneself. And Azazel is a catalyst for human development and transformation because of this. The duality of metalworking, of course, can be seen, used for creation and destruction, tools for building and tools for war. And the forge within blacksmithing is an interesting symbol in and of itself. The forge symbolizes rebirth. It is where metal is melted and reshaped, making it a metaphor for rebirth and transformation. Azazel challenges and reshapes human capabilities. He pushes boundaries and he teaches humans to embrace change. So Azazel and his teachings have parallels in other mythologies from other cultures and times. His working with the forge and blacksmithing connects him, of course, with Hephaestus and Vulcan. Hephaestus being the god from Greek mythology, and then later this was changed to Vulcan within the Roman civilization. So these gods, being gods of blacksmithing, are connected with the forge, the crafting of weapons. They crafted these weapons for the gods and the heroes, but still the same symbolism, that of creation and destruction. If we look at the Bible and Tubal-Cain in Genesis 4, chapter 4, verse 22, and there is a quote that states, the instructor of every craftsman in bronze and iron. So Hephaestus, Vulcan, and also connecting with Tubal-Cain, who is teaching all of humanity this art. This is the archetype of the master craftsman who imparts forbidden or advanced knowledge to humanity. Now, looking at it more esoterically or through an occult lens, metallurgy, this is connecting more with alchemy, alchemical transmutation, and the transmutation of base metals into gold. Although this doesn't just have to be literal or physical, and a lot of times in the left-hand path it is not. It's more referring to the refinement and transmutation of mental states, spiritual states. But Azazel's teachings on metallurgy, the practical aspect of it, it's an earthly form of the alchemical process, allowing one to refine and elevate the self through knowledge and practice. These metals also have a place in rituals because of their symbology. For example, iron corresponds with the concepts of strength and protection, grounding, and so it's very useful to use iron in things like daggers and other ritual tools. So Azazel, in being able to teach these skills that allows, these skills that allow for the further progression and development of human beings, he is a symbol of technology and innovation. He is the archetype of the innovator, the one who pushes boundaries of what is possible, the one who challenges tradition and norms. Any innovator, human innovator, they embody these same archetypal qualities. They're seen as an outsider. They're challenging convention. They're going against the mainstream. Often they receive punishment or ridicule for this because of the upheaval and change that they bring, which is chaos. And the mainstream authority is, of course, very resistant to any kind of change or chaos like this. Azazel teaches us to embrace complexity, even ambiguity. This is something I've noticed personally, and it's something I've had to work with a lot, is that I'm very systematic in my approach to things. I like order. I like organization. One of the issues I had when coming into demonolatry was trying to determine what is the hierarchy. And what I soon realized very quickly is that there's not one hierarchy, and there's many different hierarchies. And there's even disagreement about which entities are actually demons or not demons, and this drove me nuts. I had a lot of stress over this. But that's just one example. There's many other things in traversing the left-hand path, that there's not always this clean, clear-cut order. And studying about Azazel now and trying to learn from Azazel and his teachings, okay, I'm understanding this now. There's always going to be that ambiguity. There's always going to be that complexity. You're walking through the shadow where it's dark, or you're descending into the fires of hell where there's chaos. So already you can feel the power here. But I think if you're looking for that order to be given or handed to you, or to even exist, you might be on the wrong path. This is the whole idea with Lord Leviathan, the chaos dragon, the goddess of the sea, the goddess of the subconscious mind and the abyss and the depths of the ocean and the unconscious, that it is chaos, power in chaos. And it's duplicitous. It can absolutely destroy you. But if you can just hang on, get through it, don't give up, keep pushing forward, there's just infinite power there. Infinite power. But this is the left-hand path. There will sometimes be gray areas, uncertain areas. We're trying to work with the shadow and integrate it, and we're doing shadow work. There's a lot of terrifying things, uncertain things that we must learn, not necessarily to make order of the chaos, but just to go with it and embrace it for what it is chaos. I came to realize, and when I did, I saw some very big advancements personally in my work, that when I gave up trying to control everything and understand everything, when I gave up trying to order and organize everything and just follow the power, embrace the chaos, that's when you start to see things happen. This is the left-hand path. It is the path of chaos. It is the path of hell. It's not meant to be gentle or pleasant. It's meant to be disruptive. Trying to understand the complexity of power and chaos. The lower mind, the collective unconscious, the subconscious mind, things that Dr. Carl Jung talked about, things that the psychoanalytic psychologists talked about and tried to work with, those shadow aspects of the mind. This path is also about embracing the full spectrum of experience, right? And balancing light and dark, balancing liberation and restraint at times, balancing attack and defense, embracing the full spectrum of the experience, that of the liberating and corrupting influences, and just again, acknowledging the complexities of this whole thing and even the contradictions of this journey. Okay, let's look a little more closely at the desert in Azazel's mythos. This is where he was sent for punishment as part of the scapegoat ritual in the Hebrew Bible for the Yom Kippur ritual. The desert is a symbol of isolation, desolation. The desert, I can just say personally, I've always been in love with the desert. I've always thought I'd like to live there. When I was younger, I had a chance to go out and visit the desert, and there's just something indescribable about it. but something that, at least for me, and I know I've heard this from other people, so there are others, that there's something about it that draws you in, that you feel some kind of connection, timeless connection, spiritual connection. There's something very spiritual about the desert. And there really shouldn't be, because it is a desolate place. It is a harsh place. So why would a human being be drawn to that? Perhaps on a physical level they're not, but perhaps on a spiritual level they are. The desert serves metaphorically as the boundary between order and chaos, and is connected with themes of exile, but also purification and the struggle for redemption. So that's why you'd have a lot of these spiritual followers, whatever their background is, going out into the desert in the hopes of returning transformed. So the desert is where some of these big transformations can take place, that they have taken place. It's a place of testing. It's a place of purification. The desert is removed from the order of civilization. And right, when you're out there and there's nothing out there, and it's just so wide open and so flat, and there's nothing there. So you find yourself out in this barren landscape that seemingly goes on forever in every direction. And the only thing that is there is you. So you're left with yourself. It's a place of testing, where you go to test yourself and transform yourself. Where you go to confront your inner self, to face your inner trials. It's a symbol of exile and isolation. But what's important here with this symbology is that it's where you go alone and you must survive alone. So it is really testing the magician, the alchemist, sorcerer, what have you. Like, if you really want to test yourself, and of course it will test you mentally, but on all planes, it's going to test you mentally. But it's going to test you, or sorry, did I say mentally? I meant to say, of course it's going to test you physically, of course. It's a very harsh environment. But it's going to test you mentally. Ultimately, it's going to test you spiritually. And just like that idea again with the chaos or the shadow or hell, you go in there, you could be destroyed by it. You might not come back. But if you do, the idea is that you will be a much stronger individual because of it, much more enlightened. The desert is a metaphor for the inner journey, connecting with inner desolation and reflection, the inner landscape of the soul, where you must confront the barren and uncharted aspects of yourself. So the desert is like a mirror when you're out there and there's just nothing for miles and miles to see. This is a mirror reflecting your inner self. It symbolizes the journey into the desolate parts of the psyche, where self-discovery and transformation can happen. It's connected with purification and struggle, and it's this struggle that we shouldn't view as a bad thing. This struggle is necessary. Punishment is necessary in this context. For leading to growth, for attaining the state of purification and self-mastery. You are enduring your own trials and challenges in order to purify yourself. Anything that doesn't destroy you, right, will make you stronger if you can overcome it and survive. The desert has a duality, just like everything else, and just like Azazel, It is a place of chaos, but also potential. It is a place of desolation, but also a place of potential. There is room for new growth and a total reformation of identity here. Right? Punishment takes place here, but also transformation. Introspection. Right? It's a place of introspection because it is a place of isolation, and it's a mirror for your inner self. When you're out there, you quickly realize how alone you are, and that will destroy a lot of people. But you have to, if you can push past that, right? This is all part of spiritual unfoldment. You have to go through these trials, including this, including going out into the desert, whether literally or figuratively. Azazel's connection to the scapegoat archetype in psychology, right? So looking at the scapegoat archetype in psychology is going to connect us with things like Dr. Carl Jung, the collective unconscious, social culture, and things like this, right? So with the scapegoat in human psychology and human social culture, we use this as a way to project blame or negative traits onto another individual or even a group. So in Leviticus, it talked about sending the sins to Azazel. Humans do this too, figuratively. It's how they manage their guilt, their shame, their responsibility. It's why humans are so quick to get defensive even when they know something that happened was their fault. So if we look at the role of the scapegoat in group dynamics within psychology, within social and group contexts, the scapegoat is the target of collective blame. And they are the vessel for the group's negative emotions, fears, failures, etc. Any kind of negative energies. And this mechanism of the scapegoat, it helps to preserve the group's sense of cohesion and also moral superiority by doing just as they did in the Yom Kippur scapegoat ritual in the book of Leviticus, by externalizing the causes of their problems, right? So in the Hebrew Bible with the Yom Kippur, it's the members of the community who are doing bad things. And then they have this high priest come down from the temple and symbolically cast their sins on this poor goat who is innocent. And then, the one goat they just immediately sacrifice to their god, and the other one they send out into exile. And this goat didn't do anything, but now the group feels better. They've maintained their sense of cohesion. They are still morally superior because they are not sinners. They're not sinners. They got rid of their sin. Yeah, complete BS, if you ask me. It's a way to project negative traits, right? It protects, it can be used by an individual to protect that individual or by a group to protect their self-image by displacing responsibility onto the scapegoat. Now, it does help to maintain social order, but for the poor individuals or group, a scapegoat could also be a group of people. That is not fair. But it's a temporary solution to maintain social order. And the way you're doing this is you're creating a common enemy or a common target. And this is it's a total lack of responsibility. But temporarily, it helps to maintain the cohesion of the group. So that's why it's used. Whether it's used, consciously or subconsciously, a lot of times people are not aware that they do this. So Azazel, as the scapegoat, is the bearer of the collective shadow, those darker, unacknowledged aspects of the community. Azazel, in the mythos, he absorbs their projective sins, right? The priest is projecting the sins of the community onto this goat, and then this goat is absorbing it, and the goat is being sent out to Azazel. So you're sending out the goat with society's rejected parts. And this ties in with the idea and the archetype of the outcast. When you see an outcast, yeah, a lot of time it's so easy. They get ridiculed and they get blamed. But I think those negative traits, a lot of times that you're seeing in an exile or an outcast, it's a projection of the society that exiled that individual or group. We also have personal scapegoats, like something called internal scapegoating, where you project your own unwanted traits or emotions onto a part of yourself that makes it easier to deal with, or even onto like an external figure, including negative archetypes. Azazel also symbolizes internalized aspects of ourselves that are disowned or rejected. And that's really what the sin is about. You're committing a sin. A lot of times that's something physical that's done. But that comes from a very mental place. And, why do that ritual? Because the community, they don't have responsibility. They don't want to face their own shadow and acknowledge that, no, they're the ones who are evil in doing this. And they think it's absolves them to just symbolically, project all of their sins and shadow aspects onto this poor goat and send it out to die into the wilderness. So what we can learn from this whole story, one of the things we can learn are the dangers of projection, right? So projection is where in psychology, when you project, it's like you're blaming others for something you do, and it's because you're uncomfortable. So maybe, for example, just you in general, I'm speaking, like maybe you're the type of person who would cheat on a test. And so you become overly paranoid that other people are cheating or that they will cheat off of your test. Maybe you are the type of person who would steal from somebody if you thought you could get away with it. And so now you find yourself becoming very paranoid of others, very untrusting of others. Or it's very easy for you to blame others for doing bad things. And it might not really have any truth. There might not be any basis or truth to these accusations, but it's coming from a place of insecurity within yourself, and you're projecting those insecurities onto others. Something that you'll often see within relationships is if one of the members of the relationship is like overly jealous and overly paranoid that their partner is cheating. And it could be justified, but a lot of times it's not always justified. So where is that coming from? Right? So if you're in a relationship with someone like this and you're not cheating, you're an honest person, but they're always paranoid about you cheating, that might make you want to question them. Why are they so focused on this? Why are they so worried about this? Are they perhaps projecting their shadow aspects onto you because they would cheat or they have cheated, or it's something that they deal with internally? But we can also use this for integration and healing, because there's a potential to transform the shadow into a source of strength. And, I see parallels in this with psychoanalysis. So psychoanalytic theory is something started by Dr. Carl Jung and Dr. Sigmund Freud. That was kind of his baby. But also he worked together with Carl Jung. So Carl Jung is also of this school of thought, the psychoanalytic theory. And their whole thing was that there's this surface kind of conscious mind, but it's just like the surface of the ocean. And it's what we see and it's what we're readily aware of. But that's such a tiny, tiny fractional part of the whole mind and even what's influencing it. And so Freud would use things like hypnosis, and I mean, he was always trying to come up with different techniques to access this kind of unconscious mind and even aspects of the subconscious, because consciously there are things that we're not aware of. So, it might be when you see clowns, you cry. Just for example, I'm sure some people do see clowns when they cry, even if they're 40 years old, for example. But they might not have any idea. But Freud would believe, no, there's something in your mind that makes you terrified of clowns. There's some memory, something that happened, maybe some kind of trauma involving a clown, and it was so horrible that you can't accept it, you can't think about it. So you have used a coping mechanism. Freud called these defense mechanisms, and one of them was repression, where anytime this memory comes up, you just don't want to think about it, so you just push it down, you repress it. And you get good at doing that to the point where as you get older, especially if this is something that happened when you were a young child, they talk about this idea of these hidden repressed traumas from childhood, and they'll put the child, well, now as an adult, put them through hypnosis to try and access these repressed memories. But psychoanalytic theory, it believes in that. And then if you can find, for example, with the clown, if you can find that repressed memory, now once you've found it and you're aware of it, it will come to the surface conscious mind, right? So it's kind of like this detoxing of your mind, right? Because that's a toxin that's in there and it's still affecting you, even though you're not consciously aware of it. But once you become aware of it, you cast your gaze upon it, now it comes up to the surface mind, and then through certain therapeutic techniques, you can deal with it. And in that sense, it can be used for healing. The same thing with the shadow. I mean, this really does tie in with the shadow and the shadow self. When you're going in to yourself, deep into your mind, and you're dealing with terrifying aspects of the cosmos that is there, if you don't freak out, if you can just keep moving forward, you can use alchemy and transmute these things from negative forces into positive forces. So it can be used for healing, and then you can integrate them. You can integrate that shadow into yourself for even more power. Yeah, so just more on the dangers of projection, but I think I pretty much talked about this enough. It's a Band-Aid. It's temporary relief, and it leads to cycles of blame and conflict and a disconnection from the true source of the problem. So scapegoating is not going to help anybody in the long run. It just hurts everybody, especially the innocent. And that's where I have a problem with it. So you must move beyond the scapegoating. You must have courage. You must face and integrate the shadow aspects represented by the demon Azazel. Okay, so we talked about earlier in this video Azazel's connection with the earth, and therefore the element earth. There's also a connection with fire. And everybody has their own personal differences of experience in dealing with these entities or energies or forces or however you even view them. But for me, Azazel, even now knowing the connection with metalworking and the earth and things, I still see him as a being of the element of fire. There's just something for me personally that relates him with Satan is just so fiery about Azazel. Although the fire would connect with the blacksmithing and the forge and things like that. But fire, this is symbolic of transformation, purification, also destruction, also illumination and enlightenment. And just like Azazel and everything else, it has a dual nature of creation and destruction. So esoterically, if we examine fire under an esoteric lens, it's all about transformation, transmutation, purification, refinement. You can use it to burn away impurities. And you can use it to facilitate transformation. Within alchemy, it's connected with calcination, where base materials are burned away to reveal a purer, more refined state. Fire is connected with destruction and also renewal. It is symbolic of endings that make way for new beginnings. Azazel's teachings destroy old beliefs or situations, but they make way for renewal and growth. So you can think about this when a fire wipes through a forest. Of course, it destroys everything. But then that land later becomes very fertile, and it will grow back, and maybe even in a stronger way. I'm not really expert on forest fires and things, but that's something we know, that if you burn down a forest, it will grow back, and it can still be fertile after that. Azazel's association with fire connects him with mastery of metalworking and the forge. Of course, this involves fire. The forge is central to transformation of raw ore into functional tools and weapons. And so Azazel is the master of transformation, and he empowers through knowledge of working with primal elemental forces. So, right, just as literally he's teaching about raw kind of primal elements of the earth, like raw ore and things like this. Metaphysically, he's teaching about working with raw primal forces and transmuting them. Azazel is a symbol of rebellion. Of course, he has an uncontrollable nature. So fire is symbolic of Azazel's rebellious, uncontrollable spirit. He cannot be contained. He cannot be constrained. Of course, he is a metaphor for knowledge and enlightenment, as is fire. Fire is the light of illumination, which connects to the pursuit of knowledge and wisdom. Azazel is the bringer of forbidden knowledge. So, of course, this is going to tie Azazel to light and to fire, just like Prometheus is tied in with fire. And enlightenment and illumination, but enlightenment from challenging ignorance and seeking deeper truths. There's also the dangerous allure of fire, right? It gives you warmth, it gives you light, but of course it can also burn and destroy. So just like knowledge, which it symbolizes, there is a dual nature here. Azazel's fire connects with the inner journey of the alchemist, the magician. That inner fire, which is that willpower, that inner drive, passion. You need this. You need this willpower, this focus, this intention, assertiveness, right? These are all qualities of fire. Confidence. You need these things in magic and alchemy to induce any kind of change. So Azazel can be thought of as that spark which ignites that inner fire. So we also have the idea of facing the flames of transformation. This could be facing difficult truths, making sacrifices to achieve personal growth. Through alchemy, fire, right, it is burning away the dross to reveal the pure essence beneath through calcination. Okay, let us now take a look at some of the metaphysics of Azazel. We'll look at the archetype of Azazel in psychology. And of course, Azazel fosters themes of rebellion and forbidden knowledge and transformation, which we discussed at length already. So just so we're on the same page here, we should define this term archetype to understand exactly what it is we're talking about. So archetypes are universal symbols and motifs that arise from the collective unconscious. And this is a concept that the psychoanalyst Dr. Carl Jung came up with. And he believed that that we have this collective unconscious that is shared across all humans throughout all time, throughout all cultures. And that this is even where a lot of our symbolism and things come from, even a lot of religious symbols that are used by humans. You know, where did they get it from? Well, maybe there was a mystic who was meditating and they went deep into their mind and they accessed the collective unconscious and they were shown this symbol or something like this. So yeah, that's Carl Jung and the collective unconscious and universal archetypes. Azazel connects with the shadow self. We talked about a lot also. Also the trickster and, of course, the rebel. And these are different aspects of the human psyche and things that we will, of course, encounter and work with and have to deal with on our journey towards apotheosis. If you are, of course, a magician or alchemist traveling the left-hand path. Okay, so back to this idea of the collective unconscious. So we have these archetypes, also known as Jungian or Jungian archetypes, named after, of course, Carl Jung. They are innate, universal symbols. They recur across cultures and myths. They are fundamental. They also contain, within this collective unconscious, is also contain like fundamental human experiences, things that help shape our perception and interaction with the world. So this collective unconscious, it's where the archetypes reside, shared part of the human psyche, contains memories and patterns inherited from ancestors. And Azazel helps to tap into this deep universal reservoir of human experience. And you can almost draw some parallels between this and other things like the Akashic record, or this idea of this kind of universal cosmic library that's always there, it has always existed, and we can just tap into it through different magical techniques. Okay, so Azazel as the shadow archetype, he embodies the darker hidden aspects of the personality, that which is repressed and denied. Again, this ties in with psychoanalytic theory, which we discussed. Traits, desires, impulses, things that the conscious mind finds unacceptable or maybe just it fears confronting. So they are kept in that shadow realm, which in psychology would be the subconscious mind or even the unconscious mind. So this association with forbidden knowledge and rebellion makes Azazel an apt symbol of the shadow self. And we talked about integration of the shadow, so it's important to acknowledge and integrate these repressed aspects, as this will lead to a more balanced and authentic sense of self. And this is what they do in psychoanalysis. That's what Freud and Jung and the other psychoanalytic psychologists were doing, because they believed these things resided in the deeper levels of the mind and they were affecting us even though we weren't aware of them. So you just basically had to just become aware of them, discover that they're there, and then you confront them, and then that brings them up to the conscious mind, conscious awareness, and then you can deal with them. So Azazel's teachings encourage exploration of these hidden parts, and true empowerment requires embracing all aspects of one's nature. Okay, so this is something that we didn't really touch upon yet in this video, but that's Azazel being viewed as the trickster archetype. And this is quite interesting. So this trickster archetype, or the trickster figure, is a boundary crosser. They're a disruptor of norms, a bringer of change. They bring chaos. They embody chaos, also ambiguity. They challenge the status quo. There's great flexibility in their thinking and behavior. So, yeah, quite necessary for destabilizing order, and if you want to rebuild a new order, necessary for creating innovation, things like this, creativity. So this trickster archetype is connected with ambivalence and paradox. The trickster is neither wholly good nor evil. So it's wrong to think about the trickster as just being like an evil entity. It's more ambiguous than that, and there's moral ambiguity. And so as Azazel, we can think of the trickster because he liberates humanity through knowledge, but he also introduces chaos. So he gives humans the knowledge to create tools to help them live better lives, but they can also use this knowledge to create weapons to destroy lives. So again, there's that duality there, and the trickster is an embodiment of that duality. Also, Azazel, of course, is the rebel archetype with his defiance and resistance against oppression, conformity, and authority. And with Azazel, it's all about teaching us how to attain personal freedom and autonomy by breaking free of external constraints. That's why the fallen angels left heaven. Like, they literally broke away from the ranks as good as they had it, right? As good as they had it in heaven and having that kind of power and enlightenment. But still, there was just something that they believed in so much that they broke away from it, and they were punished for it. And they did it to help us. Azazel and the alchemical process. Okay, so let's look at Azazel and how he ties in with alchemy. So alchemy, this is bringing up, we're talking about symbolically themes of transformation, mastery, pursuit of hidden knowledge. Alchemy is about transforming base materials into something purer and more valuable, such as lead into gold, where you're refining, so lead into gold. But this is interpreting it literally, although many, especially within the realms of magic and the left-hand path, alchemy, and things like this, I think there's more of a symbolic, figurative, metaphorical interpretation here, where it's about refining and elevating mental states, psychological states, or even spiritual states, more so than necessarily like physical, chemical alchemy. But still, physical alchemy was a big thing back in the day. It was the precursor to modern chemistry, and it was a practical work that aimed to transform substances. But of course, within there's also the esoteric side of it, where it held a deeper spiritual meaning. And so we have things like mental alchemy and spiritual alchemy or metaphysical alchemy, what have you. And it's about actually, instead of transmuting metals, transmuting the soul from a state of impurity or ignorance to one of enlightenment and perfection. The goal in alchemy, spiritual alchemy, is achieving the diamond body. The diamond body is perfection, that state of perfection. And so you would be invincible, you would be immortal. And this is all part of the great work, or the magnum opus. And the magnum opus is the ultimate goal of alchemy, where it's leading to a complete transformation of the self. And to do this, you go through the stages of purification, dissolution, reintegration, chemical processes of calcination, dissolution, coagulation, etc. And of course, Azazel, symbolizing transformation, ties in very well with alchemy. So we have literal alchemy with his teachings on blacksmithing and metallurgy and weaponry and stuff, right? But also, I think in the more spiritual sense, right, Azazel also connects with that, and even more so with his connections to the element of fire. So the way I'm viewing Azazel is, I've always viewed Azazel as, when I work with him, is I just sense this being of fire, like a fire elemental. But the more I learn with him, the more, I feel also, connected with the earth. So it could be this connection to both the earth element and the fire element. Or none of this could matter. And what I mean is the obsession with knowing the exact element. That's actually a good example for what I was talking about earlier. When I came upon the left-hand path, especially with demonology, when I got introduced to demonology, and I was trying to make sense of all of these hierarchies and their elements, and I'm like, okay, well, this person says Belial is associated with the south and fire, but these people say Belial is associated with the north and earth, and this stuff just drove me crazy. And I still catch myself, just like now, trying to make sense of it, but I think that's missing the point. right? Because you're trying to work with chaos, but at the same time you're trying to make an order of it. And I think that's just not well, from personal experience, I've found that once you let go of trying to control everything, trying to order and organize everything, that's when you can really connect with these energies. Okay, so where was I? Alchemical process. Yeah. Alchemical. Metaphorically, this is viewed as the alchemical transformation of the self. You're breaking down and rebuilding. For example, Azazel broke the divine laws, and then he's rebuilding new paths. Broke down the divine order and rebuilding the left-hand path for humanity to travel, to achieve their own power, so they don't have to be enslaved if they don't want to be. So rebuilding new paths through forbidden knowledge. The alchemical process is breaking down old base elements symbolized by lead and refining them into something new and valuable symbolized by gold. So lead into gold. Okay, let's look at some of the stages of alchemy. So calcination, that's something that was mentioned earlier in this video. So this could be breaking down of like the ego and attachments. Symbolism is it's burning away impurities. So Azazel's defiance and his subsequent punishment could be seen as calcination, in that he's breaking down his old self, his old values, his old ethics and morals to make way for a new transformation. Now, with dissolution, you're dissolving elements into a liquid state, symbolized by dissolving rigid beliefs, which will open you to new knowledge. So with Azazel, we talked about this. He breaks down the barrier between the divine and human realms, and he is dissolving that barrier. And once it's dissolved, you allow this just knowledge and all of this to flow into the material, earthly, human plane. Coagulation, the final stage where the purified essence is solidified into a new exalted form. And so Azazel's teachings encourage the magician, the alchemist, to coagulate newfound knowledge and strengths into refined, empowered versions of themselves. So you can view, certainly, Azazel as an alchemical guide, as a mentor on this path. There are his teachings on metallurgy and crafting of weapons, and he's the archetype of the master craftsman. So you could take that literally or figuratively. He's, as I said, he's great for guidance and transforming the base self into the invincible diamond body. Okay, we have the pursuit of the philosopher's stone, which is the symbol of the ultimate transformation, immortality, invincibility, the diamond body, spiritual illumination, apotheosis. Like once you've got that, you are a deity, you are a god, you are a goddess. And Azazel is the one revealing this secret knowledge that is necessary to attain this state. So the pursuit of this philosopher's stone, it's coming to that forbidden knowledge and embracing the forbidden and embracing the hidden aspects of the self. Azazel is revealing the secret knowledge that is necessary to do this. More lessons from Azazel as it pertains to alchemy. You must embrace change and uncertainty, and you must integrate all new knowledge, no matter how uncomfortable it is. Okay, let us look at astrological associations. Astrological associations of Azazel. So as a demon being associated with rebellion, forbidden knowledge, transformation, this does allow us to connect Azazel to certain astrological symbols. So astrology is looking at the celestial effect on human affairs, personality traits, spiritual paths. And it's kind of interesting to look at. There are many who incorporate astrology into their magical and alchemical processes, and I think that it can kind of help to make sense and order of things. Although I've learned not to try to make too much order of these things without losing my mind. But let's just look at some associations. And none of these are clear cut. They're not cut into stone. And there could be various differing interpretations on these. But, planets. So we're looking at planets symbolizing rebellion and transformation and hidden knowledge, and that gives us Uranus. Uranus is a planet of rebellion, change, and innovation, and it connects with the disruptive, transformative qualities of Azazel. And this planet is about challenging norms and breaking boundaries. And we also have Mars. Mars being connected with war and warfare. So, of course, this is Azazel. Azazel is going to have a connection here. Aggression, action, weaponry, combat. We talk about the martial energy of Mars, embodying themes of strength, assertiveness, and the pursuit of personal power. So Uranus, Mars, and Pluto, of course. Transformation, death, rebirth. The deep, uncomfortable truths of existence. Black alchemy, confronting the hidden, confronting the shadow or the taboo. Okay, so Azazel can easily connect with Uranus, Mars, and Pluto, no problem. Zodiac signs, Scorpio. Scorpio is ruled by Pluto. And again, this also embodies themes of transformation, just like Pluto and Azazel, but also intensity and exploration of the hidden and occult. Of course, Azazel is a catalyst for change. This is Scorpio energy. Azazel can connect with Aquarius, which is governed by Uranus and symbolizes freedom and innovation and defiance, and it's anti-establishment and unorthodox. It's adversarial. It's against authority, challenging authority. These are all attributes connected with Azazel. Without debate. Azazel is the rebellious spirit. He imparts transformative knowledge, and he emphasizes individuality and progressive change. And of course, ruled by Mars, we could connect Azazel with Aries. Aries, symbolizing action, courage, leadership. So we know Azazel took action in leading the rebellion of the Watchers. He was also a leader of the Watchers. That connection with Mars and martial energy. He has his teachings on warfare and how to make weapons. So he's very bold and assertive like Aries. And he embodies that drive to take charge and challenge obstacles. So Azazel is a catalyst for growth, we said many times. He holds the power of rebellion and mastery, and he shares that with humans. He's about defying limits and seeking forbidden knowledge, sharing that with humans. Symbolically, this is talking about breaking free from stagnant patterns. The left-hand path is dynamic. It's full of energy that's moving, chaotic energy, dark energies, light energies. But as soon as you start to become too comfortable, like what I was talking about, I was really trying to create some kind of order, some kind of structure. Why? Because that would make me comfortable. Okay, well, that's not good. Once you're comfortable, then you stop moving forward. The struggle is gone. You become complacent. You become weak. Okay, so Azazel teaches how to manipulate the elements of the earth. He is a symbol of earthly knowledge and a teacher of metallurgy. Teaches the secrets of metal working and blacksmithing. Is the master craftsman. So the element of earth in esoteric traditions, it symbolizes stability, the carnal plane, the material realm, structure. This connects with King Belial, Lord Emperor Behemoth, wealth, riches, also grounding, fertility, practicality, pragmatism, health, healing, home, luxury, nobility, royalty, strength, foundation, growth, transformation, manifestation. And earth, of course, has a dual nature, similar to Azazel's dual nature. It's capable of creation and it's capable of destruction. It is the source of life and sustenance, but can also bring upheaval and chaos through tornadoes and monsoons and hurricanes, typhoons, earthquakes, volcanic activity, things that will destroy even that life. But then after that destruction, you see things come back in new and interesting ways, perhaps in a better way. Okay, Azazel's connection to metals, especially within weaponry. The symbolism is strength and transformation, mastery over the physical world. So when Azazel came as a teacher of humanity, he was bringing very practical knowledge, working with the earth, not like working in the spiritual realms or the astral plane or even the mental plane. Like he was coming here and getting his hands dirty, teaching the humans how to get their hands dirty and like make real tangible things to help their lives. So this led to the human capacity to alter the natural world, taking raw materials and transforming them into powerful tools or weapons. Whatever you call this is alchemy. The alchemical symbolism here, metals associated with various stages of transmutation, transmuting from base to noble states. Azazel's knowledge of metals was an early form of alchemical wisdom, and it guides the transformation of the self and the manipulation of the elements. He bridged the divine and the material realm. He's a teacher of earthly skills, and so he's bridging the gap because he comes from the divine realm. And he's bringing knowledge from the divine realm, but he's applying it within the material realm. So he's bridging that gap. That's what he was punished for. Azazel's influence is all about the flow of knowledge from the higher celestial realm to that of the lower carnal realm. So from celestial beings to carnal human beings, flesh and blood human beings that now have divine knowledge. Watch out. He's challenging the boundaries set by divine authority and encouraging exploration of the material world's potential. Okay, so when you work with Azazel in modern occult practices, especially within the left-hand path, right? So you're working with the earth elemental energy. You're working with energy of metals. This is really good for like grounding yourself. Maybe you're getting lost, a little bit too heady, a little bit too out there, and you need to ground yourself. So that's when you want to come back to the earth element. And that happens with me sometimes. And through spiritual alchemy, I'm going through earth and I'm going through water and fire and air. And I'll just stay in that. Like I'll stay in the air for days or weeks. And sometimes I'll get to a point where, I just need, I need to get back down. And so that's when I began working with earthly energies. Okay, I think we are just about done. Just a final thing is, Azazel is all about reclaiming earthly power, reclaiming personal power, reclaiming mastery over the physical realm, self-empowerment, and, connecting yourself with the natural world, not just for grounding, but to actually harness its hidden potential. You can get too caught up in the fire and air or even in water. Don't neglect the earth element. You must develop as above, so below. Basic Hermeticism, as above, so below, as within, so without. As you're developing mentally, you're developing spiritually, and you should also be developing physically. That means developing not just your physical body, but in this material plane, you're also developing here or there, depending where you are right now listening to this. So it's about the integration of the material and the spiritual. You need this for true mastery. You need this balance. You need the practical, like what Azazel was all about, bringing that practical knowledge, and you need the mystical, spiritual knowledge. These are not mutually exclusive. All is connected. All is mind. The universe is mental. All planes are one. All is connected.